The grand hall of the Galactic Council shimmered with light that bounced off the polished stone walls. 17 alien species sat in rising tiers around the central speaking platform. They watched with curious eyes as the human delegation entered. Ambassador Elena Chen walked with her head held high. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and quick movements. Behind her came 5 other humans, each carrying data tablets and wearing the blue and gold uniforms of Earth's Space Command. This was the 3rd day of talks. The first 2 days had not gone well. Humans, spoke Elder Vexorian, his purple skin gleaming under the lights. We have reviewed your territorial claims. We find them excessive. Elena's face showed no emotion. Those are not claims, Elder. They are statements of fact. Earth and its 7 colony worlds require these buffer zones for security. Laughter rippled through the council chamber. The tall, insect-like Ordani representatives clicked their mandibles in what humans had learned was their version of mocking laughter. Security from what? Asked the Ordani leader. Your ships are slow. Your weapons are primitive. You have only just learned to travel between stars. Elena took a deep breath. Our request is reasonable. We need space to grow and develop without interference. Elder Vexorian waved a 4-fingered hand. The Council has decided. Your species will be granted protection zones extending only 1 light year from each inhabited world. The rest will remain open space, as is proper. That is not acceptable, Elena said, her voice steady but cold. It is not your place to decide what is acceptable, Vexorian replied. You are newcomers here. You should be grateful we allow you any territory at all. Elena stood still for 10 seconds. The other human delegates looked at each other. Then, without another word, she turned and walked toward the exit. Where are you going? Demanded Vexorian. These talks are not finished. Elena stopped at the doorway and looked back. Yes, they are. The human delegation followed her out, leaving confused aliens behind them. What just happened? Asked a jellyfish-like being floating in a tank of blue liquid. Only Clothera, the ancient Ziloni observer, felt worried. Her species had lived for millions of years. They had seen many civilizations rise and fall. Something in the humans' quiet exit troubled her deeply. They did not argue, she whispered to her assistant. They did not beg. They simply left. In the docking bay, Elena and her team boarded their ship. Her second in command, Dr. Jackson, looked concerned. Are we really doing this? He asked. Elena nodded. Send the message to Earth. Negotiations failed. They won't respect our boundaries. Initiating Protocol Prometheus. As their ship broke away from the Council station, signals officers throughout the alien fleet intercepted the transmission. Analysts and AI systems tried to understand what Protocol Prometheus meant. None could decipher it. In her private chamber, Clothera felt a cold sensation run through her ancient body. She had studied Earth history during preparation for the human arrival. Prometheus was a figure from human mythology who stole fire from the gods and gave it to humans. Fire that changed everything. They are not retreating, she said to the empty room. They are planning. The Council had made a terrible mistake. They just didn't know it yet. 2 months passed. The Galactic Council sent 27 messages to Earth. They received no reply. This is an insult. Elder Vexorian slammed his fist on the table during an emergency meeting. These humans think they can ignore us. Admiral Skavash of the Ordani Collective nodded his insect-like head. Perhaps we should remind them of their place in the galaxy. A small show of force near their colony on Ta Ceti might change their attitude. Across the chamber, Clothera of the Ziloni raised her ancient, withered hand. I advise against this. We know very little about humans. Their silence may have meaning we do not understand. What is there to understand? Laughed Vexorian. They are sulking like children. Their technology is centuries behind ours. What can they possibly do? Clothera's compound eyes blinked slowly. That is exactly what troubles me. They should be begging to rejoin talks. Instead, They are silent. Why? Far from the council chambers, across human space, something big was happening. On Earth, factories that once made cars now built spacecraft parts. Scientists worked day and night in labs across the planet. Military ships returned from distant colonies to Earth orbit for what officials called upgrades. At the colony on Mars, engineers worked on huge engines unlike anything seen before. When a reporter asked what they were building, the project leader smiled and said, "Insurance." The council's spy ships watched from a distance. They saw increased activity, but couldn't get close enough to understand what was happening. Human patrol ships kept them away without firing a single shot. They simply appeared whenever alien vessels approached and activated powerful jamming fields. On Proxima Centauri II, the Council's observation post noticed strange changes. The human mining operation there had been small, just a few hundred workers extracting iron and copper. Now thousands of people arrived each week. New buildings appeared overnight. Massive digging machines tore into the planet's surface. Captain T. of the Council scout ship Vigilant moved his vessel closer to investigate. His ship was designed for stealth. No primitive human sensors should detect it. "Sir," his sensor officer called out, "the humans are activating something on the surface." A blue energy field rose from the ground, surrounding the entire mining complex. It shimmered like water, then turned solid. The Vigilance sensors could no longer see through it. "They've detected us," T. asked in disbelief. "No, sir. They haven't tried to contact us or target us. They're just ignoring us." T. ordered his communications officer to send a message to the mining facility. Protocol required him to identify himself before any potential conflict. No reply came. The humans simply continued their work behind the energy shield, as if the alien ship weren't there at all. Throughout human territory, the pattern repeated. Massive construction projects, military movements, and complete silence toward the Galactic Council. In her private chambers, Clothera studied ancient texts about species that evolved on dangerous worlds. One passage caught her attention. "The most dangerous predator is not the one that roars, but the one that watches silently before it strikes." She looked out at the stars and wondered what the humans were planning. Whatever it was, she feared the Council had severely underestimated these newcomers to galactic society. The Galactic Council meeting room was tense. On the large display screen, a map showed human territory surrounded by small triangles. Each triangle represented a warship. "The containment fleet is in position," Admiral Skavash announced. His insect mandibles clicked with pride. 80 warships now form a complete blockade around human space. Elder Vexorian nodded with satisfaction. "Excellent. Now these humans will learn respect." Only Clothera looked troubled. "This action may be seen as hostile," she warned. "It is merely precautionary," Admiral Skavash replied. "My ships will only stop suspicious vessels. Normal trade can continue." The truth was different. The Admiral had secretly ordered his captains to inspect every ship entering or leaving human space. His real goal was to find out what the humans were planning. 3 days later, the Ordani warship Inevitable detected a small human freighter approaching. The freighter was heading toward the neutral trading hub at Epsilon Eridani. "Human vessel," the Ordani captain transmitted. "This is Captain Drevkor of the Galactic Council blockade. Stop your engines and prepare for inspection." On the small freighter, Captain Sarah Chen, no relation to the ambassador, received the message. She was a middle-aged woman with gray streaks in her black hair. 20 years in space had taught her to stay calm in dangerous situations. "Attention Ordani vessel," she replied. "This freighter carries medical supplies for the Epsilon Eridani Medical Center. We have proper documentation. All vessels must be inspected," came the reply. "Stop your engines now, or we will fire warning shots." Captain Chen sighed. She opened a secure channel to her crew of 5. "They're not going to let us pass peacefully. Activate the Prometheus device." Her first officer looked nervous. "Captain, this will be the first real-world test. Are you sure?" Chen nodded. They were warned. She opened the channel to the Ordani ship again. Ordani vessel, we advised against this course of action. You were warned. The Ordani captain laughed. His massive warship could destroy the tiny freighter with a single shot. Human, you are in no position to warn us about anything. Captain Chen pressed a small blue button on her console. Initiating jump. On the Ordani ship, alarms suddenly blared. Captain, the sensor officer shouted. The human vessel is. I don't understand. It's creating some kind of spatial distortion. Before their eyes, the small freighter glowed with blue light. Then it simply vanished. What happened? Where did it go? Captain Drevkor demanded. Unknown, sir. Our sensors detected energy readings unlike anything in our database. 3 days later, disaster struck the blockade fleet. On all 80 ships, at exactly the same moment, the navigation systems failed. Warning lights flashed across control panels. Engines shut down automatically. What's happening? Admiral Skavasht demanded as his flagship drifted in space. Sir, our navigation computers are locked. We can't plot courses. Communications with Council space are down. The Admiral's second-in-command checked the systems. Life support is working. We're not in danger. We just can't go anywhere or call for help. For 3 weeks, the mighty blockade fleet drifted helplessly through space. When rescue ships finally arrived, they found the crews unharmed but deeply shaken. In her chambers, Clothera received the report about the disabled fleet. She wasn't surprised. She had warned them. These humans were not like other species. They didn't fight in expected ways. They were something new, something dangerous. Alarms rang throughout the Galactic Council headquarters. Security officers rushed through hallways. Emergency lights flashed red. How is this possible? Elder Vexorian demanded. His purple face had turned almost white with fear. The head of Council Security, a tall Mendari named Tralix, displayed holographic images showing database access logs. Someone or something has accessed our central information network. They copied vast amounts of data. What was taken? Asked Clothera of the Ziloni. Everything. Trelix replied simply. Technical specifications, fleet movements, diplomatic records, research data. The breach affected all 17 Council species. The room fell silent. The shared technological database was the foundation of galactic cooperation. It contained the combined knowledge of all advanced species. Our security systems are the most advanced in the galaxy, said a reptilian counselor. How could anyone bypass them without triggering alarms? Before anyone could answer, messages began arriving from across Council space. The Araxian Military Command reported their classified weapons research had been accessed. The Ordeni reported breaches in their strategic planning archives. The peaceful Ziloni found their ancient historical records had been studied. Nothing was destroyed or changed, only studied. Who could do this? Elder Vexorian whispered. Ambassador Trelix activated a display showing data from the first contact with humans. During initial meetings, humans mentioned they were developing quantum computing technology. We dismissed it as primitive. I believe we were wrong. He showed images of human computer facilities. Our experts estimated they were at least 50 years from creating true quantum systems. But look at these energy readings from Earth in the past 2 months. The display showed massive power consumption at facilities across human territory. They've made an impossible leap forward, Trelix continued. And I believe they've deployed their quantum systems not as weapons of destruction, but as weapons of knowledge. Clothera nodded slowly. They didn't need to attack our ships. They simply learned everything about them. In a secure room deep beneath London on Earth, a team of scientists and military personnel monitored displays showing incoming data. The room hummed with the sound of cooling systems keeping the quantum processors from overheating. General Maria Reis watched as information flowed across screens. She was a tall woman with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her uniform had no decorations except a small pin showing Earth surrounded by 7 stars. one for each colony. Status report, she said. A young scientist looked up from his station. Protocol Prometheus is 98% complete, General. We now have comprehensive data on all Council species, their technologies, military capabilities, and resource dependencies. Weaknesses? The General asked. Many, replied the scientist. Their unified database was well protected against known threats, but they never imagined our approach. They've been stagnant, comfortable. They stopped innovating centuries ago. General Rice nodded. And the analysis? Another officer stepped forward. We've identified 23 critical vulnerabilities we could exploit to cripple their infrastructure. Their power grids, communication networks, and transportation systems all share similar weaknesses. Good, said the General. But remember our orders. This is not about destruction. Protocol Prometheus is about understanding. She looked at the main screen showing a map of Council space with key strategic points highlighted. Now that we understand them, it's time for them to understand us. In her quarters, Ambassador Elena Chen received the report from General Reyes. The time had come for humans to return to the Council, not as supplicants, but as equals. A human diplomatic ship appeared at the edge of the Galactic Council space station's sensor range. Unlike the plane vessel used before, this one gleamed with new technology. Its hull shimmered with a faint blue energy field that the station's sensors couldn't penetrate. They're requesting permission to dock, said the station controller, surprise clear in his voice. After months of silence, the council chamber erupted in angry debate. Deny them access, shouted Elder Vexorian. They have attacked our ships and stolen our data. Clothera raised her ancient hand for silence. We should hear what they have to say. Refusing them now could make things worse. After hours of argument, the council agreed to allow just 2 human representatives to board the station. Ambassador Elena Chen and General Maria Rice walked through the station's grand hallway. Council security officers followed at a distance, weapons ready. The 2 women ignored them. They're afraid of us now, General Rice said quietly. Ambassador Chen nodded. Fear is not what we wanted. But sometimes people must fear before they can respect. The council chamber was packed. Representatives from all 17 species watched as the humans entered. Elena Chen took her place at the speaker's platform. General Rice stood beside her, tall and straight in her dark uniform. 3 months ago, I left this chamber when you refused to respect human boundaries, Chen began. Today, I return to explain what has happened since. She activated a small device on her wrist. The chamber's main display screen changed to show a map of council space. When you dismissed our territorial claims, we activated Protocol Prometheus, she continued. Named after a figure from our mythology who brought knowledge to humans. Elder Vexorian leaned forward. You admit to stealing our knowledge. We gathered information necessary for our survival, Chen replied calmly. Your council's history shows that you have absorbed or controlled every new species you've encountered. We chose a different path. General Rice stepped forward. Our quantum computing systems have analyzed every aspect of council operations. We now possess detailed knowledge of all your military installations, defensive capabilities, and resource dependencies. Gasps and angry mutters filled the chamber. This is an act of war, shouted the Ordani representative. No, said Chen firmly. This is an act of survival. If we wanted war, we would have struck already. The general activated her own device. The display changed to show 23 different locations across council space. These are points where your infrastructure is vulnerable, Rice explained. Your power distribution networks on Araxis Prime, your fleet communications relay at Ordani Beta, your food production facilities in the Mendari system. She paused to let her words sink in. At any point in the last month, we could have disrupted these systems and caused catastrophic damage. We chose not to. The chamber fell completely silent. Ambassador Chen's voice was steady. We didn't want war. We still don't, but we refuse to be controlled or limited The Prometheus Protocol wasn't about gathering intelligence for attack. It was about ensuring you understand the cost of underestimating us. She looked directly at Elder Vexorian. Now we are ready to talk again. Not as newcomers begging for a place, but as equals with the power to defend our rights. The question is, are you ready to listen? Clethera, the ancient Saloni, watched the human women standing tall before the council. For the first time in centuries, she felt something change in the balance of galactic power. A new age had begun. Elder Vexorian paced in his private chambers on the Araxian homeworld. His purple skin had dark patches, a sign of stress in his species. The human revelation at the council meeting had humiliated him personally. His people looked to him for strength, not weakness. "They are bluffing," he said to his military commander, General Kavoth. "These humans cannot possibly have the capabilities they claim." The general looked uncertain. "The evidence suggests otherwise, Elder. Their quantum computing breakthrough appears genuine. And the blockade fleet? A simple electronic attack." Vexorian snapped. "Nothing more. We've faced worse." He walked to a large window overlooking the capital city with its towering crystal spires. "The Araxian Empire has stood for 10,000 years. We will not be threatened by primitives who only learned to travel between stars a century ago." General Kavoth hesitated. "Our military analysts recommend caution, Elder. We should study the humans further before taking action." "No," Vexorian's voice was cold. "Prepare the third battle fleet. We will launch a surprise attack on Earth's orbital defenses. When their homeworld is vulnerable, their colonies will surrender." "Elder, this action goes against the Council's vote to reopen negotiations." "The Council has grown weak and fearful," Vexorian interrupted. "Sometimes strength must be demonstrated. Launch the attack in 3 days, under total communications blackout. The humans will never see us coming." 3 days later, the Araxian Third Battle Fleet, 30 warships strong, left their home system. Their advanced stealth systems hid them from normal sensors. Their course was set directly for Earth. The massive ships entered faster than light travel, their commanders confident in their superior technology and firepower. The journey to human space would take 5 days. Plans were made for the attack, with each ship assigned specific targets in Earth orbit. Halfway to their destination, disaster struck. Admiral Karn was on the bridge of the flagship when all systems suddenly failed. Emergency lights came on as main power died. "Report," he shouted as officers rushed to check their stations. "Main power systems are offline," Admiral reported his second-in-command. "Engines are down. Weapons are offline. Only life support and basic communications between our ships are functional." Similar reports came in from all 30 vessels. The entire battle group was dead in space, drifting helplessly between stars. As the Araxian crew struggled to understand what had happened, every communication screen on all 30 ships activated simultaneously. The shocked officers stared as their screens displayed their own battle plans, their encrypted command codes, and their planned attack vectors on Earth. A simple message followed: "Return home. No further warnings will be given." Admiral Karn's hands shook as he read the message. "How could they know? How could they stop us?" he whispered. It took 3 weeks for emergency power to return to the Araxian fleet. When they finally limped back to their homeworld, a greater shock awaited them. In the homes of every high-ranking military officer and political leader throughout the Araxian Empire, a small object had appeared. They looked like simple decorative sculptures, a metal sphere balanced on a crystal pyramid. No one knew how they had gotten there. Security systems detected nothing. When Elder Vexorian found one on his bedside table, he stared at it in horror. The humans hadn't just defeated his fleet. They had walked unseen into the most secure locations in his empire. For the first time in his long life, Elder Vexorian felt true fear. The emergency council meeting was called at short notice. Representatives from all 17 species gathered, fear clear on their faces. News of the Araxian fleet's defeat had spread quickly despite attempts to keep it secret. Elder Vexorian was notably absent. In his place sat a younger Araxian who kept his eyes down, avoiding the stares of the other council members. "How are humans doing this?" asked the Ordeni representative, his insect mandibles clicking nervously. "Their technology was primitive just months ago. Their ships shouldn't be able to disable our fleet," added another counselor. "It defies everything we know about physics." As the frightened voices grew louder, Clefera of the Zaloni raised her ancient hand. The chamber fell silent. The Zaloni rarely spoke at length, but when they did, all listened. Clefera's body was frail, held upright by a special support chair. Her exoskeleton had the pale blue color of extreme age. When she spoke, her voice was soft but clear. "My species has lived among the stars for 50,000 years, she began. "Before most of your ancestors discovered fire, we watched the galaxy, and we watched Earth." A murmur ran through the chamber. This was new information. "Humans are not like us," Clefera continued. "Their planet is unique. In our observations, we found no other world that produced intelligent life with such peculiar traits." She activated a holographic display showing Earth. "This planet has extreme variations in climate. Desert, ice, forest, mountains, all on one world. Most intelligent species evolve in stable environments with few changes." The display zoomed in to show ancient human tribes building shelters, making tools, hunting animals much larger than themselves. "Look at their history," Clefera said. "While the Araxians evolved powerful bodies and the Ordani developed natural armor, humans remained physically weak. They survived by adapting, by thinking differently." The council watched as the display showed humans creating fire, wheels, boats, and increasingly complex tools. "Each of our species evolved one perfect survival strategy," Clefera explained. "The Mendere can breathe any atmosphere. My own Zaloni can go without food for years. But humans, they evolved to adapt constantly, to learn, to change." She looked around the chamber. "They don't think like us because they never needed the stability we require. Their minds expect challenges. They anticipate problems. And now we have pushed them to adapt to us." The Mendere representative, Ambassador Trellix, stood up. "So you're saying their Prometheus protocol isn't just about gathering information?" "No," Clefera replied. "It's about understanding us completely so they can adapt to us, predict us. The human mind doesn't just solve problems. It anticipates them." The display changed to show human warships pulling back from positions near council space. Several species had already withdrawn their military forces from positions near human territory. "Look at what they've accomplished," Clefera said. "Without firing a single shot, they've changed the balance of power. They've made us fear them. Not because they're stronger, but because they think differently." She closed her ancient eyes for a moment. "My species has seen many civilizations rise and fall. We know the pattern. But these humans, they don't follow patterns. And that makes them the most dangerous species we have ever encountered." The council chamber was completely silent as her words sank in. 2 weeks after Clefera's speech to the council, a new human ship arrived at the Galactic Council station. Unlike the military vessel from before, this one was clearly designed for diplomatic purposes. It was elegant and carried no visible weapons. Ambassador Elena Chen had returned, but this time she brought 20 additional humans. Each wore a uniform color-coded to match one of the council species. They carried no weapons, only data tablets and small translation devices. "What is the meaning of this?" asked the acting Araxian representative when the humans entered the council chamber. Ambassador Chen smiled. "We've come to restart negotiations, but this time we're doing it differently." She introduced her team. "Each person here has spent the last 3 months studying one specific council species. They've learned your biology, psychology, history, and cultural values. They understand how you think." The council members looked at each other in confusion. This was not what they expected. Chen continued. "The mistake we all made was trying to communicate as if we think the same way. We don't. So we've created something new. A human woman stepped forward. She was tall with dark skin and wore the blue colors of the Mendari Republic. She bowed in the specific manner that Mendari used to show serious respect. Ambassador Trellix, she said in perfect Mendari language, your people value harmony above all else. Your language has 37 words for different types of cooperation, but none for competition. Our standard human negotiation tactics seemed aggressive to you because we use terms of winning and losing. The Mendari ambassador looked shocked. How could you know this? These are concepts we rarely explain to outsiders. We studied you, she replied simply. Not just your official records, but your literature, your children's stories, your ancient myths. We wanted to understand how you think. Similar scenes played out across the chamber as each human approached their assigned species. They spoke in the aliens' native languages, used their cultural gestures, and referenced details that showed deep understanding. A young human man approached Clothera of the Ziloni. He moved slowly and spoke in the rhythmic pattern that Ziloni elders preferred. Honored elder, he said, your species sees time differently than we do. You live for centuries. You think in terms of ages and eras, not years and days. When we pushed for immediate answers, it seemed impulsive and childish to you. Clothera's ancient eyes widened slightly. You understand. We're trying to, he replied. Ambassador Chen took the central speaking position again. We propose a new framework for relations between our species. We call it the Mutual Recognition Protocol. Instead of forcing all species to follow the same diplomatic rules, we adapt our approach to each species' nature. She activated a holographic display showing a complex network of connections between different communication styles. We've developed translation systems that don't just convert words, but concepts and emotions. We've studied your conflicts and found ways to address ancient problems that the council structure couldn't solve. The chamber was silent as the implications became clear. The humans hadn't just gathered intelligence for military advantage. They had achieved something far more valuable: understanding. Ambassador Trellix of the Mendari was the first to speak. You built weapons to destroy us. They built understanding to transform us. Not everyone welcomed the human diplomatic revolution. In a secret meeting room on a small moon far from council space, representatives from 4 species gathered. The room was swept for listening devices. Guards stood outside. No recording devices were allowed. Admiral Gavash of the Ordeni led the meeting. Beside him sat the young Araxian who had replaced Elder Vexorian, along with military leaders from the Drath and Volrani species. The council has grown weak, Gavash said, his mandibles clicking in agitation. They are accepting human demands without question. They are afraid. The Araxian nodded. Elder Vexorian has been removed from power because he failed to defeat the humans, but his concerns were valid. Humans cannot be trusted. What do you propose? Asked the Drath commander, a reptilian being with scales that shifted color with his mood. Currently, they were dark red, indicating suspicion. Admiral Gavash leaned forward. We must create countermeasures against their intelligence gathering. We need a communication system they cannot penetrate. Over the next 2 months, the 4 species pooled their resources and best scientists. They created a new quantum-encrypted communication network they believed was secure from human monitoring. They met regularly, always in different locations, planning their response. We have almost completed the defensive grid, reported the Volrani engineer at one meeting. She displayed plans for a network of sensor platforms that could detect human ships. When operational, humans will not be able to move undetected near our territories. Good, said Admiral Gavash. And the fleet coordination. The Araxian military representative activated a holographic display showing ship movements. We have repositioned our forces as planned. When complete, we will effectively control all major trade routes near human space. We can limit their expansion without direct conflict. The council can debate and talk all they want, Skivash said. We will protect our interests more directly. After months of careful planning through their secure channels, the Alliance launched their operation. Warships from all 4 species took positions along key trade routes. Mining operations were established on previously neutral planets near human territory. Supply convoys traveled with heavy escorts. Their goal was to slowly squeeze human expansion without starting an open war. 3 days into the operation, something unexpected happened. Human ships appeared near the blockade points, but instead of confronting the alien vessels, they simply activated new propulsion systems. The human ships moved through space in ways the Alliance sensors couldn't track, easily navigating around the carefully positioned forces. At the Alliance's secret headquarters, Admiral Gavash entered his office to find a small package on his desk. Security had detected nothing. Inside, he found data chips containing detailed records of the conspiracy, minutes of their meetings, communications they thought secure, even personal conversations between leaders in supposedly shielded chambers. A simple note was attached. "We continue to choose peace. We hope you reconsider your current path." That same day, each member of the secret alliance found similar packages. Their supposedly secure quantum network had been compromised from the beginning. The Drath commander's scales turned pale yellow, the color of fear, as he realized the truth. The humans had known everything from the start. They had allowed the conspiracy to proceed, watching and gathering evidence. And still, they had chosen not to strike back. One standard galactic year after Ambassador Elena Chen walked out of the council chamber, a historic event took place. For the first time in the council's 10,000-year history, an official meeting was held outside neutral space. The location: Earth. Ships from all 17 council species arrived in Earth orbit. Even the Ordani and Araxians, who had opposed human integration, sent their highest representatives. The new council chamber had been built in the ancient city of Geneva. It was unlike any meeting space in the galaxy. Instead of a single grand hall, it was a complex of 17 connected chambers. Each was carefully designed for the specific biological needs of one species. For the heat-loving Drath, their room was kept at 90 degrees. The Ziloni chamber had higher gravity and special lighting for their sensitive eyes. The Valrani could breathe their methane atmosphere while still seeing and hearing the proceedings. All 17 chambers connected to a central hub where translators and diplomats worked. Holographic displays allowed everyone to see and hear each other, while each species remained in perfect comfort. Ambassador Elena Chen, now given the title of Earth's Council Elder, stood in the central hub. Above her, a glass dome showed the blue sky of Earth. "1 year ago, I walked out of peace talks," she began. "Many of you thought it was an emotional reaction, a human weakness. It was not." She looked around at the representatives of 17 different evolutionary paths. "Our isolation was never about rejection. It was about preparation. Not for war, but for true cooperation." On large screens around the hub, the history of the Prometheus Protocol was displayed. Not just the technical achievements, but the cultural understanding it had created. "We needed you to recognize that humanity cannot and will not be forced into existing structures that ignore our nature," Chen continued. "So we demonstrated our differences in the only way you would understand." Elder Clethera of the Ziloni spoke next. "The humans have proposed a new framework for our interactions. They call it the Adaptive Diplomatic Framework. It acknowledges our biological and psychological differences, rather than trying to force us all into one system." The framework details appeared on screens: unprecedented information sharing protocols, cultural exchange programs, and collaborative defense initiatives that protected all species. Most surprising was the human proposal for conflict resolution. When disputes arose between species with fundamentally different thought processes, specialized human diplomats trained in both cultures would serve as interpreters, not just of language, but of concepts and values. Elder Vexorian, reinstated after his successor's failed conspiracy was exposed, rose to speak. His once proud posture was now more thoughtful. I opposed human integration most strongly, he admitted. I saw their differences as weakness. I was wrong. He looked at the human delegation. We mistook their departure from our chambers as weakness. Instead, they showed us that true strength lies not in domination, but in the courage to reimagine what cooperation between profoundly different beings can achieve. As the session concluded, an announcement surprised the Council. Every member species would receive a human diplomatic mission to their homeworld. The once skeptical races now competed for these missions, recognizing that humans brought unique insights and opportunities. Ambassador Chen looked out at the alien representatives who had once dismissed her people. In 1 year, humans had transformed from newcomers to essential partners in a new galactic order. Not through conquest, not through technology alone, but through understanding.